You ever look at someone's TikTok or Instagram bio and wonder, do they really have these many mental disorders? Let's just say if you want attention so bad that you are faking a mental disorder, you may actually have a mental disorder. Anyway, let's start from the beginning. Mental disorders were thought to be caused by supernatural forces in ancient times, including but not limited to demons, witches, and whatever the show's supernatural uses when they ran out of ideas after season 5. Yes, the show ran for 15 seasons by the way. It makes sense that at the time people would resort to blaming the supernatural. Imagine you were a small-time farmer in the 5th century. Rome just died. Your wife just died from the common cold or uncommon cold or whatever rarity of cold, and your son started to see things that aren't there. Of course, you're more inclined to think that your son is the second coming of Jesus than to attribute it to you constantly beating him. So what are mental disorders? Let's look at the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 5th edition, or the DSM-5, which should have been named the DSM-MD5. Actually, replace the 5 with a V for consistency. The mental disorder definition in the DSM-5 is a chunk of text. Let me give you the TLDR because we all know our attention span is so short nowadays that the ADHD prevalence has almost doubled in the last 20 years. Wait, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, mental disorder definition. It all boils down to disturbance, dysfunction, distress, and disability. The 4 Ds. And the 5th D stands for damn, DSM-4 is really too categorical. Let's try something more dimensional. You may ask, why not just use the word dimensional? We can see that the definition of mental disorders focuses on external observations, like the black box approach in behavioral psychology, and that scene from the movie Seven, and we can't see what's inside the box. Or can we? Why not scan the brain? First, money. Second, something called individual differences, i.e. something Twitter users could never understand. Most psychiatric disorders don't show a unique feature in the brain. Cancer, you have a tumor. COVID, coronavirus. STD, poor decision making or bad luck. But for depression, all you get is, on average, lower activity in the frontal lobe and hippocampus, plus a smaller amygdala. How the hell are you supposed to detect depression with this information? We can't construct an objective scale because everyone's brain works a bit differently. Of course, if you see this brain, something's up. But in reality, it isn't this obvious most of the time. Plus, does it even matter if someone's brain has features of depression? The most important thing is they have a depressed mood or anhedonia, which sounds like the name of some fictional magical city, but it's just a fancy name for loss of pleasure or interest. Mental disorder is a problem that needs to be solved. If they don't have any problems, what is there to solve? Side note, I want to point out that depression affects 3.8% of people but 5% of adults worldwide. Treasure your childhood, kids. It only goes downhill from here. How do we define what should be diagnosed and what is normal? Just looking at the average points won't work. The average number of legs is between 1 and 2, like Syndrome said. If everyone's abnormal, no one is. Yup, that's what he said. There has to be a range of normalcy instead of a point. Mental disorders are like what the DSM-5 said, a psychological problem that affects our functioning in society and causes distress. We define what is regarded as a problem and what isn't. In summary, we kind of made the whole thing up. It is not as bad as it sounds. The purpose of diagnosis isn't to reject those outside the range of normalcy, but merely to indicate that they have psychological problems that need solving. We made a diagnostic system to classify specific psychological problems we face so we know what to research and what scientifically proven treatment method is the best solution for each problem. Letting researchers write clickbait research articles like, I solved schizophrenia, or curing panic disorder, gone wrong, I panicked. Another reason why we made this classification is to let people suffering from these problems know they are not alone. To many people, that is a huge relief to know they aren't to blame for the mental disorder and that there's hope for them. Now, because we made the whole thing up, there are some issues. So, depression frequently comes with anxiety and personality disorders often appear together. This is called comorbidity. Many mental disorders are like a package deal. If you get one, you will get another for free. We have to think about to what point they are the same problem. That's the same reason why in Multiverses, Tom and Jerry are combined into one character. Looking at it another way, people with the same diagnosis can act quite differently. Symptoms of schizophrenia can range from hallucinations to delusions to catatonia, and you can divide them into more subtypes. People don't have to have all these symptoms to be diagnosed. This is called heterogeneity. At this point, are these people still having the same problem? An exaggerated example is to say that a cat and a furry are the same just because either can be thrown off a building. And last, there are the outcasts. The other specified diagnosis. They are like those crumbs that drop onto the floor from your McDonald's burger, or those people who somehow still use a Nokia phone. If you try to stuff everyone's problems into neat categories, of course someone fits. Hey, are you feeling alienated because of your mental health condition? Will it help if we put you in the others category? At least you still have CBT. And don't you dare make another joke about what CBT stands for, I swear. The labeling of diagnosis makes people generalize the extreme cases of mental disorders to everyone with the same diagnosis. Generalizing traits to a group of people? Surely we don't do that, right? People are less likely to seek help as they don't want to lose the mental disorder lottery. Ding ding ding! Congratulations! You have anorexia nervosa. Time for people to tell you to just eat, Lamau. The bottom of the stick lies the most stigmatized mental disorders, dissociative identity disorder, or its less accurate name, multiple personality disorder, certainly has been creatively interpreted over the years. The portrayal of DID in movies and shows, let's just say those are truly the portrayals of all time. The multiple personality part isn't the main focus of the disorder, but rather the dissociation part. And it won't give you superpowers. Having DID doesn't always mean you'll have visual hallucinations of your other personalities. Filmmakers only use this trope to allow different personalities to interact. I swear if I hear one more person mistaking the mood swing in bipolar or BPD as split personality, I'll actually split them in half. That is probably as infuriating as people with schizophrenia seeing others cosplaying as them every Halloween. No wonder they don't seek help. How many people can confidently tell others they are psychotic? Do they tell other people, hey there, I'm insane? Schizophrenia is indeed associated with violence, but that doesn't mean all or even most people with schizophrenia are violent. Other factors are at play here, like substance abuse and not complying with treatment. To treat someone as a violent criminal just because they have schizophrenia is unfair and inhumane. Also, side note, schizophrenia affects 1 in 300 people worldwide, which is not that rare. Don't hesitate to seek help if you experience psychotic symptoms. You are not alone and there's help for you. Lastly, borderline. BPD people are often labeled as difficult to deal with, even by psychologists. Within the BPD diagnosis, the type and severity of display symptoms can vary for each individual. So yes, borderline personality can manifest as not respecting boundaries and other questionable behaviors. A ton of blame is thrown towards individuals with BPD, either from their family, friends, or worst of all, clinicians. The concept of BPD challenges the line of free will, or should I say, the borderline of free will. Their personality forces them to make a choice, but at the same time it is their conscious decision, so are they to blame? BPD could involve attention-seeking, inconsiderate, aggressive, and impulsive behaviors. And we could and should criticize their actions, but at the same time we still have to treat them, and they can change. We should stop focusing on the blame and start focusing on healing, which is easier said than done. And this makes me sound like one of those quote-unquote positive Instagram accounts, probably owned by some middle-aged man copying quotes from the Bible. To be honest, if I'm treating a BPD person and they call me at 3 in the morning just to rant about the ex-girlfriend, I don't think I can take it. It is always easier said than done. The stigma extends beyond blame to the generalization of all BPD people as troublesome and manipulative, where many are just victims constantly tortured by their emotions and self-image. I hope you understand at this point how stigma is like a cockroach with unlimited response. There could be a good ending to all of this. Look at how the field on depression has dramatically improved in the past years to a point where everyone is self-diagnosing themselves with it. Not the ideal outcome, but it is much better than people fearing the depression diagnosis. This shows that stigma is less like a modern day kid and more like a kid from the 70s. We can beat it. Now, let's go back to the fundamental question. How do we define mental disorder? Well, Societal context determines it. As society changes, what causes distress or disability will change. Also, there will be more research on mental disorders. The definition of mental disorders needs to be constantly updated. In the period of war and danger, anxiety saves lives. If you are a celebrity, somehow histrionic or narcissistic behaviors are rewarded. It all depends on the context. Psychologists are now trying to find a way to allow people worldwide to adapt the definition of mental disorders to their own cultures and societies. Looking at the definition of mental disorders in the DSM-5, you'll see a fine print in the end, saying that it is a mental disorder if it fits the societal context, or if you're just edgy. This is good, or else all the people on the internet posting the god-awful text will be diagnosed, and that will cripple the mental health services for those really in need. Actually, I shouldn't give those attention-starving goblins any ideas. Because of the flaws of the categorical model, the APA and the WHO try to incorporate elements of a dimensional model into the DSM-5 and the ICD-11. The categorical model refers to a system I've been talking about that shoves mental disorders up its ass. Into neat categories. A dimensional model is more flexible than a categorical one. It focuses on the conditions, severities, traits, and features that make up a mental disorder instead of giving it a rigid definition. One example of a dimensional model is the new personality disorder classification in the ICD-11. Some experts don't like this because it complicates the diagnostic process. Also, they have to learn a new system, so clearly they care about the first reason more. By the way, the DSM is a metaphor for how American imperialism has taken over the world. If we care too much about the boundaries of mental disorders, this will all be reduced to gatekeeping. And this is not the funny haha girl boss gaslight gatekeep. This type of gatekeeping keeps people in need from getting treatments. On the other hand, we need to be careful of misdiagnosis, especially in risk assessments which could lead to people being forcefully detained. Keep in mind the limitations of the diagnostic system and the importance of individual differences. Let's say someone somehow got PTSD symptoms from watching Tom Holland say, "I don't feel so good" in the movie Avengers Infinite Money Printing Machine. You have to help them even if they don't fit the DSM-5 criteria of PTSD. Compassion has to come first. Distress and dysfunction should be the core consideration in diagnosis. This is all subjective, but you have to be subjective in a professional way. This is why it's so dangerous to self-diagnose or to diagnose family or friends. Mental disorder diagnoses and treatments can help us escape the maze in our minds. We all have that maze. Maybe this is another thing that connects us as humans. Besides our mutual hatred of Velma, of course. A little footnote here. The dimensional approach to mental disorders is still under research, and there are some promising results like this paper finding evidence that supports the dimensionality of some mental disorders. But for now, a large part of the diagnostic system is still categorical. This is the best we can do, so please don't trash on your therapist for diagnosing you. I hope you like my breakdown of the categorical mental health diagnostic system and my mental breakdown of making this video. Please like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. Comment below all your self-diagnoses and I'll see you in the next video.